Redefining diversity, competence, integrity, and work ethic through one location, one phone call. Introducing Signature Hill.
Hello and welcome to Signature Hill. You're about to experience our client orientation, and first, before we go there, it's very important for you to understand that Signature Hill is nothing more than a location where several independent professionals work together. There are no partnerships here. There are no ethical complications where attorneys or doctors or lawyers or other lawyers are working together. We just are like-minded professionals, and you're witnessing an orientation in our standard client orientation. The best way to do that would be to actually have a live orientation, and we have one. So we're going to start that in a minute. And again, I want to thank you for joining Signature Hill and using this professional orientation for whatever purposes you may have, including our own client orientation. I want to also underscore the fact that Signature Hill is located at 318 Highland Avenue, Newcastle, Pennsylvania. It is located on the web at www.signaturehill.com, and it is probably much more of a concept than it is a place, because a lot of our clients come from out of town, and a lot of the professionals may or may not be actually in this building, but using the practice management and this orientation piece for their own practice. For all of those reasons, we thank you, and we will begin now with our client orientation. We're here for our client orientation. Thank you so much for choosing Signature Hill. We do appreciate your business. And one of the things I want to underscore for you is that we have a client relationship that may or may not begin. And our client relationship starts with some basics. One, we don't guarantee results. We can only professionally and ethically guarantee the effort. We do like to say that our work ethic combined with our integrity and competence will lead most often to good results, but there's no guarantees. Secondly, we also want you to understand that many times bad choices were made even by people who are innocent. Bad choices on who you hung out with, or what decisions you made when you were with somebody, or what split-second decisions may have been made behind the wheel. And we can't fix everything. So we hope that you're patient with us in this journey, because our client relationship is going to be a journey. And we're going to get you across the finish line. One of the things ultimately is that everybody comes to an office and wants to win. Sometimes winning is not possible, but sometimes less than winning is possible. We always have exit strategies. The goal here at Signature Hill is to win, but it's also a goal to put you in a better position than you were before you came in the door. And that includes after you pay us. We are always mindful of the fact that you have to pay for your legal advice, and we'll get into that in a bit. And that's a reality of doing business in the professional world. Now, with regard to that, our attorney-client relationship always begins with us making a free consultation offer to the client. Now, that consultation can be physical, as yours was. The consultation can be telephonic. It does not need to be physical, face-to-face. We always encourage people to come face-to-face because I think it's better. I'm still an old-fashioned guy when it comes to this idea of going eyeball to eyeball, belly to belly, being the best way to communicate. However, many times, because we are now experiencing growth that has taken us to 32 odd counties in Pennsylvania, over 7 states in 2 different countries. It's very important for us to communicate face-to-face, but telephonic is okay. And now we have a third member of this little communication opportunity arrangement, and that's like a video webcam type thing. So those take place too. In any event, whether it's telephonic, whether it's video or not, it's very important for us to take advantage of your free consultation. What is a free consultation? Well, first of all, there's only one of them. Okay. And secondly, it is given free as an insurance to somebody like you that's not a trick. So we get you to the office and then you are trapped here and you have to hire us. The free consultation is designed to eliminate any fear from the client that they don't have to pay anything until and only if they like what they hear. So the next thing we have with the free consultation is we have the free consultation that has substance to it though too. You know, a lot of people have free consultations, they'll sit down and make some questions and answers and whatnot, and you'll say, gee, it's no wonder it's free. It only took 5 minutes or whatever. Our free consultation will take as long as it takes to do the job. What is the job? Our job is to listen to you. Now, many times you'll be frustrated in a free consultation. You may even be remembering your own. When we always try to tell people we're getting a flyby at 35,000 feet, like in an airplane. If you look at a city from 35,000 feet, it's pretty concise and compact. And that's what we're doing in the case in the free consultation. To be sure, we're not going through the entire case or all the witnesses or anything else. We're just going to get a bird's eye view. And from that bird's eye view, however, we will be able to make what we call salient findings. These salient findings are bullet points, facts that are important. And once we have those salient findings, we can make salient recommendations of how best to address this need, this client need. So our free consultation includes listening and making salient findings and a salient set of recommendations. Now that's important because the next thing that stems from the salient recommendations is the price. People always want to know eventually, well, what does it cost? Again, it costs nothing until you decide to hire us. And how is that determined? Well, if you look at an attorney and say, well, what does this cost? He may look as quizzically back at you as you're looking at him, because if he has not done that, he probably can't determine what the cost is. Now, I can't guarantee what the cost is, but I can certainly say that I know more what the cost is if I make these findings and recommendations. So the next thing we do is basically say the basic cost to our legal services is our hourly rate. Now, I've been doing this for 25 years and 26 years or so, 7 of which was a prosecutor, and now I'm in private practice. So ethical rules govern what it costs and what an attorney should charge per hour, but probably less important than what it costs per hour is what does it cost. Some people might charge less per hour and maybe charge more overall. Some people might charge more per hour and charge less overall. And then it might be the opposite. Well, the best way I know to get to that point is to determine what you think are the tasks necessary, those professional recommendations from those salient findings. Now again, that's only an estimate, but it's a pretty good estimate. And from that we can itemize cost. And we actually print a print sheet that will show you these tasks, and I'm sure you remember that from way back when. Okay, and when that task list is printed, it's our best estimation that if everything went perfect, then these are the amounts of tasks necessary, and then that draws upon my 25 years experience as to what it takes hourly, and then of course the computer charts the costs, the hours, and multiplies it times our billable rate, and it gives you a raw figure. At that point in time, I tell the client that he has 3 or 4 options. 1, to run and never look back. Okay, you're always free to leave. The consultation is free and we mean it. The second option is to get into some type of a payment arrangement. We'll get into that in a minute. But without those salient findings, neither of us can really begin that really tough job of paying. Now again, the next thing we do is we arrive at a quoted cost, and it comes from that printed sheet. Now the printed sheet, most people will say, well, does that take care of everything I need? And it can. The problem with that is your attorney or any professional needs to look way into the future, and that's complicated by several things. Maybe what you planned on happening doesn't happen. Maybe the other side did something no one predicted. Maybe the other attorney did something that no one predicted. So the further you go in the future, the less reliable this is. Now, if you force an attorney to project into the future, I would imagine that most professionals are going to want to be safe and project into the future enough to cover it. Not because they're being inappropriate or not because they're being gouging or anything like that. But if you ask somebody to go way into the future, they have to protect themselves and factor in things that might go wrong. So one of the first things we do to help a client is we break the case into what we call phases. Phases are short segments of time. And phase 1 or phase 2, and again, this is repetitious at some point, but the phases allow us probably to go 6 weeks into the future and say, okay, at the end of 6 weeks, we're now able to see what tasks happened, how good the attorney was, how good the case was. You know, sometimes the case turns out to be a disaster and we don't know, we were totally surprised. Sometimes people have forgot some of the facts when they talk to us and vice versa. So it's a great way for us to test the water and actually it's a great way for you to reduce your layout. Okay, so that's kind of where we're at on how we arrive at these phases. They are a reduced scope of work so that the client can reduce his outlay and the attorney can literally audition to see if you want to go on to phase 2. Maybe because the attorney is it has not worked out and you don't like working with him, then you're not stuck. Or maybe the case has not worked out. And sometimes maybe the attorney doesn't want to work with the client anymore for whatever reason. But that phase 1 is very important. Okay, then of course there'd be a phase 2. Now if there are phases, be assured that no one would ever go on to phase 2 without your approval. So now you have the right to say that it didn't work out for me, I don't want to go any further. Now, going back to these phases, in the absence of any kind of a package like that, if you ever asked an attorney, what does it cost? In our office, it always costs whatever our hourly rate is, times the number of hours we actually spend. It is always much more economical to get a package or a phase set of quotations. Because within that list of tasks in that phase is broken down a lot of small minutiae that don't get otherwise counted. So in the absence of a phase quote, and that can happen because maybe you don't want to do it that way, or maybe phase 1 has now expired and phase 2 is now taking over and you want us to continue. In the absence of having this quote, we go to what is called straight time. It's very important to understand what straight time is. What is straight time? Straight time is the hard world of business. For example, if our rate is $2.75 per hour, it is $2.75 an hour for everything we do. And it is cash and carry. It must be paid up front or on the day it's incurred. Just like if you went to a grocery store and you bought a can of soup, you pay for the soup as you leave. Okay, that's straight time, cash and carry. So in the absence of having these quotes, you would have to pay for everything that happens. And that means everything. Most people think that, for example, well, gee, we only went to court once, or we only did this, or we only did that. Well, I always like to use an example. If you hired a foot doctor, when you left the foot doctor, you're reasonably assured that he's not working on you anymore when you left because your feet are with you. He can't be working on you, right? Well, with an attorney, almost always it's the opposite. When you leave, his work really begins. Because for an attorney to do anything well, he needs to be working with the file. He needs to take the time away from all the confusion during the time you were meeting and the limited time and go somewhere and work on that file with a closed door and get into the file. All of those details. And we do that. We have a very good solid work ethic here. So there'll be a lot of time that you won't even know that we're working on the file that we are. One other thing that's important for you too is that when we become an attorney for somebody, we become responsible for that file. You may or may not know this, but there's an appearance form that needs to be sent to the courts. And what that means is it says to the whole world, including the judge, the court administrator, the other attorney, that I'm his attorney, I'm her attorney, and it means I'm responsible. Now what that means is if a deadline is missed or if somebody doesn't show up or if you're not given a document, it's because that attorney who assumed responsibility didn't share it with you. So what we call that availability, and the law allows us actually to get paid for being available or on call. And that on-call thing is good because I tell people, and I may have told you this, when you walk into an attorney's office, it's never pleasant to pay, But when you leave, the nice thing about it is I at least know it's his problem now, not mine. For example, if you're flying in a jet airplane, if you look to the left, you're always going, you get on a plane, you're always going to see dials and levers. If you look to the right, it's where all the comfy seats are with belts and movies, okay? You would not for a minute go left and say, I'm going to fly this big plane here and get it off the airplane, because you're going to kill everybody, including you and the attorney. So when you go to the attorney's office and you leave the file, when you leave, you can say, he's going to do the dials and the levers. I'm going to close my eyes and ride. And that's what's really the accountability issue there, that we're responsible for the file. So I want to go back to this idea that that's one of the things that you're paying for in that phase, the assumption of responsibility. Now, there's another thing you need to be aware of. If you ever quit in our office before that task list has expired, or if maybe we separate and want to quit working for you before the task is expired, it always defaults to straight time. Obviously, if we quit working with each other before we went through all of the tasks, then of course that package deal would be void. So what's left? The attorney still has to be paid for the time, and he gets paid by what he actually did now. And so you would actually calculate the bill, we would have a free consultation, and we would draw a line. And then many times the hours, sometimes people would be shocked because it sometimes could turn out to be more than if you had followed the task list. And that's shouldn't be surprising, because the task list is kind of a package or a deal arrangement. So in any event, it's always very important to know that. It's always very important to know, however, that if you ever quit the attorney's office before the task list is accomplished and the hours have not been used, you certainly due a refund. Billing conferences in our office are always free, so that the person doesn't have to be afraid that it's going to cost them $200 an hour or $275 an hour to determine what their bill is. So billing conferences are not only free, they're encouraged. You would not hurt our relationship at all. And sometimes people would be afraid to challenge the attorney on a bill because I don't want him to get mad at me because I need him for court and whatnot. And we encourage people not to do that. We want you to take the material from your billing conference and go home and look at it. And if we made a mistake, we'd gladly, cheerfully correct it for you. Okay, so now we're into the phases, okay? Now, there's two ways that a person pays. We already showed you what straight time is, $2.75 per hour, pay for everything, pay for it as it's accomplished, okay? So that covers everything. And then the absence of a written agreement, or after one has expired, it always defaults to straight time, okay? After that, and you may recall this, we get into the phases. And if we get into phase one, for example, you would have a task list. It's written. It's initialed by us. The task list says that we're going to do all these tasks and all the in-between things that reasonably go with that, including thinking about the file when you leave and whatnot. That is phase one or phase two or whatever phase it is. Now, there's basically three ways to pay that. The first one is by cash, obviously. The second one is by check. The third one is by charge card. We caution that if you use someone else's charge card, you must get their permission. And we always have to have the slip signed. Now, the charge card feature and the check feature are courtesies extended by our office. You know, real hard people in business say cash on the barrelhead or something like that. We know that we have a right to charge cash, but we also want to help. What we're asking you to do is make sure that we don't get burned by that, and make sure the check is good, or if something happens, and those things happen once in a while, that it's made good immediately upon notice, including the cost. The charge card people are all over the board, and they allow you as consumers, me included, I'm a consumer, to stop a charge card or something like that. And we always ask you that as a courtesy for us to use a card, extend that privilege instead of giving us cash, we're asking you to not ever stop a card or something like that. If you want to challenge your bill, we will gladly meet with you, and we can challenge it through a give and take. And if you're not happy with that, you have a right to go what's called a fee dispute committee. You have a right to sue for a refund of your money. But it really creates a huge hardship if you would just merely reverse a charge. So we're saying that the courtesy of allowing the charge card is in consideration of the courtesy of not taking the services and cutting it off somehow, which would really hurt other clients and whatnot. And that's all part of your paperwork when we go through that. Now, the other ways that we offer payments is what we call a non-flat fee. That's the first one. In a non-flat fee, we take that task list and we divide the amount of time and money in half. So a person only needs to present 50% down. Now that does not mean we only do 50% of the work. And many times we'll do more work even on the task list in that short period of time. All it means is we're trying to help the client who can't afford to pay everything as he goes by paying only 50%. And again, the 50% could be paid by cash, check, charge, or combination of all three. Now, when you pay the 50%, you have bought a non-flat fee. A non-flat fee is a situation where I have paid a retainer down, okay? And it means that it's non-flat. I'm emphasizing that. All of those little hours on that task list are estimates. They're educated estimates because of that salient findings, but they're estimates and they're guesses. If it turns out that some of them turned out to be more time than we projected, then the non-flat would kick in that the back end of the bill would get added to. Okay, now with the non-flat fee, again, I want to focus on what that is. You have paid 1/2 down. Only half you've only required to pay. But the downside to that is if the numbers on those boxes, those estimates, are wrong to the extent that they're less than the time that actually happens, the extra time is calculated on the back end of that second half of the bill. So that's a non-flat fee. And the likelihood of those being lower than what actually happens is pretty good because we're always trying to make the phases as conservative as possible. Now again, that is a double-edged sword. If we drive the projection down low to help the client with his initial outline, the second edge to that sword is that we're going to get to that point sooner, and it's likely there would be a phase 2. There's always likely that there'd be other phases, but it is impossible for you to have to pay until and only if you approve moving on to another phase. Okay? Now going back to the non-flat, which is the next phase. It's a variation of the flat. The non-flat fee is the flat fee. And the flat fee is a situation where a person pays all of it up front. Okay, why would a person want to pay all of it up front when he had an option of only paying half down? Okay, well, we give an incentive for that. The incentive is we will give you 20% off the top. So we'll calculate, and the math is already done for you, that it is 20% less. And the saving is usually dramatic. The second factor is that these numbers, if they turned out to be estimated low, it doesn't matter. They're capped. We eat that. So sometimes people would rather pay a little bit more and pay and know exactly what they got into this thing and walk out the door. And that cap says that even if it takes longer, then we won't bill for that. Now there's a caveat to that. It's very important. That does not mean that for the rest of your life on any file you ever have in our office, you're paid in full. It doesn't even mean for that file. It just means for those tasks, that task list, it is a capped flat fee. Okay? Okay, great. And that covers all of the fee issues. Now some people have actually asked for a total flat capped fee on the entire file, no matter how long it goes. Of course, if you want that, the number is going to go up, or we're willing to do that too. But again, always, if there is no agreement, then we actually default back to straight time, which is the cash and carry $275 per hour. Now, the other issue I wanted to explain to summarize these things we just talked about, whether it's the capped fee or whether it's the non-flat fee, again, if we terminate short of the task list for whatever reason, then we would calculate the actual time, and the actual time would be calculated at the hourly rate. And if it turns out that it is less actual time than those non-flat or flat fee, then you would have a refund coming. Okay? Now, there is basically several options at that point in time. The consultation, the initial consultation, is basically concluded. You will know exactly what you need to do. You will have a written action plan with those salient findings and a cost quote, and you are free to leave and pay nothing. You are free and encouraged to take that to other attorneys, to shop around, or even to share with them our strategy. It's okay. And we encourage people to take advantage of this community service consultation. We want you to do that. So at the end of that consultation, you have basically 4 options. 1, to leave and never come back and not pay anybody a dime. And we wish you well. The second option you have is to pay the least amount down, the non-flat fee, but more on the back end. The third option is to pay more down, but less on the back end with a 20% discount. And the fourth option is to take it home and talk to your wife, your significant other, your mom and dad, another attorney, and call us back later. I can't tell you how many times we've actually been pleasantly surprised to have people come back in, sometimes a month. One time I remember one as long as a year later, and the guy came in with the task list, and I remembered the consultation we were able to begin. So putting it all in writing doesn't hurt anybody, and we thank you for that. Now also, it's very important that once you decide to hire us, to make sure you still like us after you hire us. And I'm smiling a little bit because we've spent some time together, and I'm sure there's times where you maybe didn't like us on a given day or whatever, and that's okay. The first thing I pride myself on as an attorney is I tell my clients what they need to hear. You didn't pay me to tell you what you want to hear. We hope that what you want to hear is what you need to hear, and that's a good day. But if it doesn't work that way, you need to be told what to do, because we have to have a plan for you. The pilot scenario, if the person would rather fly at 100 feet and it can't keep the flame lit and the jet airplane crashes, you're not doing them a favor by flying at 100 feet, okay? So you want the pilot to do what's right for the file. So we have actually created this little itemized list of things that make it very easy for you to help in the office. Now, I probably will do injustice to eye contact, but I think they're important for me to just actually read them, and I will. These are the agreed upon attorney-client etiquette considerations. Because of the volume in this office, scheduling appointments is always best left to the client, scheduling through the secretary on the landline. You may have hired me on the cell phone or even got some help from me on the cell phone, but if you really want to have a successful journey, you need to involve the secretary. Why? The secretary controls the conveyor belt. If you have an attorney who's not busy, that might be cause for alarm. If you have an attorney who's busy, though, that might also be cause for alarm if he doesn't have a system. Our system is much like a factory. A person becomes a client, and then his file gets set on the conveyor belt, and it moves through the system. And Monday through Friday, my wife would disagree with me. She would say Monday through Sunday. The conveyor belt is moving. I come to work just like everybody else, and I pick up and I follow what's on the conveyor belt. So whenever you want to work with the attorney, it's important for you to get onto the conveyor belt because there's files coming mile a minute. The person who controls where a file sits on the conveyor belt is the secretary. So scheduling appointments and doing all that kind of stuff is important to go through her, because I really think I'm a good attorney, but I think I'm a lousy secretary. I'll say that right on film here. And I think I think we should leave the things to the people who do them best, and we have good ones. Okay, so you're on the conveyor belt. Scheduling an appointment is very important. Sometimes people are tempted to call their attorney because I thought of something. Okay, and if you did, you might want to talk to the attorney. But if you're talking to the attorney and you're calling him without an appointment, without getting on the conveyor belt, then what's happening is you're talking to him usually when he's already working with someone else, and that person is not very happy with the attorney. Secondly, I don't think there are too many people out there who are that good that can remember a file without looking at the file. And so you're going to get a guess at best, so it's very important for your own best interest to get on the conveyor belt. 2, a pre-scheduled appointment gives the attorney time to review the file so that he can intelligently answer any question you may have. 3, a pre-scheduled appointment prevents a person who did schedule an appointment from being disrupted while he or she is working with their attorney. You'd be pretty upset if you did pre-schedule an appointment and somebody else called me out of the blue and interrupted your consultation. Remember that if you choose the flat fee option, it only covers the tasks on that list, or in case the law office opts at its sole discretion to substitute or not perform a particular task, other hours used. What we're saying there is on that task list thing we talked about, sometimes the tasks, through no fault of the attorney, or sometimes pleasantly, become no longer necessary. We always reserve the right to substitute other tasks for that and just trade off on the time. Okay. A reminder that choosing the non-flat fee option or after completion or substitution of flat fee tasks creates additional billing beyond the task list estimation. 6. Remember that expiration of a task list or substitution without a new plan defaults to straight time, cash and carry, due in advance for any services. 7, very important, email consists and exists as a courtesy for the delivery of documents only and is never an opportunity to add additional work or bring something to our attention that should be done through the above described appointment procedure. Email is wonderful. We encourage you to use it. We encourage you to send directions to us. We encourage you to make your own little bullet points of what you think is important. But don't for a minute think that we're good enough to just get an email and just fit it right into your file. It's for delivery of documents, and we can't do that. That's kind of like ordering a biggie fry at a McDonald's. It's important for you to schedule an appointment. Use email, but don't assume we actually started to work on it. Use the email and schedule an appointment. Email is encouraged even above voicemail for delivering the attorney a message, but should simultaneously involve you scheduling an appointment. This is the best procedure we recommend for communicating with your attorney in the future. The agreed upon mode of participation should be as follows. A, schedule an appointment with the attorney and discuss whatever you want to discuss after organizing your thoughts. B, you're scheduling an appointment not more than 10 nor less than 5 days before any document deadline or court appearance is required. Breach of this term gives us the right to stop immediately and withdraw. A reminder, unpleasant reminder, withdrawal adds to fees and does not excuse payment. C, if you have a concern or a question, do not, unless a vital emergency, call the attorney or the secretary directly and expect to have your problem addressed, because they are almost certainly already working on someone else's file at the time and cannot stop to take your immediate message. The very best procedure is type a description in a short one sentence, multiple sentences, concise paragraphs of what you want to communicate or say to your lawyer. Next, send that document by email, knowing that it must be accompanied by your also scheduling an appointment. Next, schedule an appointment as described through the secretary with the attorney. He will have plenty of time to review your communication and promptly act accordingly. That is the very best procedure. Second best process is to call after hours and leave a message in voicemail, or call the secretary and she'll dial you into voicemail. Skip her taking a message too, because it gets the message in your own language to the attorney rather than her translating what's important to you. 10, if you have a question or concern that cannot be left in either voicemail or the email, then, as above, you should promptly schedule a physical or phone appointment. Lastly, all fee compromises are final to date, and billing prior to the date of compromises will not be reviewed as client in consideration of the compromise he knowingly, intelligently, and voluntarily chose not to avail himself. Somewhere along the line, sometimes we have what are called fee compromises, where we actually sit and work some kind of a package arrangement out. It is very, very, very timely. It costs us a lot of time to go down through every single item on a bill. However, we do it gladly and cheerfully at a billing conference. Every one of our clients is always given a summary of the notes and the entire file, and we want you to do that. But if we ever have a fee compromise, we're saying from that moment in time on, read it carefully, because we're going to move on then. And if you came back a month later, or 2 months later, or 2 years later, we're not going back beyond that point if we ever have a compromise on a fee. So that covers all of the most important things with our attorney-client arrangement here. And we're glad that you took a look at that. And we now need to move to the specialty area, and that is our substance abuse representation, which we are very proud of, and that orientation is going to follow right now. Okay, now into substance abuse. Very important for you to remember and to understand that by accident we started defending people for substance abuse, wow, probably back in the year 2003. And we've witnessed a lot of changes in substance abuse. As you may or may not recall in your orientation, I used to be an assistant principal in a high school. I was a football coach. I was a prosecutor for 7 years. I'm kind of an accountability guy. Even when my clients are innocent, I want to make sure they understand that they may have made bad choices, and we want to make sure that it's a learning journey. So I can put you in a better place than where you were. On substance abuse, it seems to be very, very obvious there. Now, a lot has come and gone since the last time we started representing people in substance abuse, and I'm not going to retrace any of those steps. I am going to remind you that in substance abuse, it is typical, like our estate planning team and our real property team, that we're working with not only multiple attorneys, but we're working with multiple other professionals. And again, Signature Hill is a concept more than it is just a place, but I'm no doctor. It's very important for you to get that. And I'm not speaking medically with any authority. Anything I might infer to the otherwise is nothing more than me referring you to what medical options I'm aware of, and I'm not a doctor, and we always want you to seek doctor's advice. I'm also indicating to you that we really, ideally, do not want to represent the substance abuse defendant legally and for treatment purposes. Now, this is different from when we first started, and with careful consideration and upon your request, we will gladly do both. We think that the best way to represent an impaired person that has a substance abuse case is to have a treatment attorney and have a legal attorney who are separated. There are many times when we can't find an attorney who will work with us that way. And through impossibility, we will do both roles, and we will make sure that we adequately disclose that to the client. But again, ideally, it works as when we're doing treatment counsel. So the first thing to explain is what is treatment counsel and what is our ideal arrangement. Our ideal arrangement is to work with another attorney, a person that is comfortable working with you as your legal counsel. We recognize that a person who has a substance abuse problem and has charged with a substance abuse crime may appear to be in the midst of a perfect storm. I'm 62 years old in a matter of days, which will date this video, I guess, but I am telling you, in my life, I have not experienced, in my opinion, two problems more grave than a legal problem and a health problem at the same time. And I would challenge anybody to show me I'm wrong. So think about it. Somebody who's charged with a crime that deals with substance abuse has the law coming after him to take his freedom away. At the same time, he has a health problem, and I'm going to get into that in a minute. Most people would agree, and we'll get to the point in time where hopefully you agree, or we won't represent you, that your health problem is much more important. Eventually, a person will get out of jail, and they still need to be alive, and they still need to lead a quality of life that's healthy. So we have found that if you coordinate both at the same time, you can actually turn what appears to be the worst perfect storm into a perfect opportunity. You know, I like to say it like in expressions that are common without demeaning the seriousness of who and what we are, that when life gives you lemons, make lemonade. And this is a great way to do that. I think of other scenarios that are exciting. Phoenix. You know, the idea that you crash and from the ashes something new is born. watching a pro football game and your team is about to be scored on and they're going to be knocked completely out of the playoffs, and all at once someone picks off a pass and runs 70 yards for a touchdown, and now you won the game. That sudden reversal from bad to good is exciting. And there's an exciting opportunity here. And that opportunity centers around linking substance abuse defense to substance abuse treatment. And these numbers, now this video, again, as of this filming, and these numbers are borne out in recent studies, estimates are that over 21% of the United States population over age 12 have a substance abuse problem. That's more than lung, breast, prostate cancer combined. In the Centers of Disease Control, they call that an epidemic. Now, the startling figure is only 1 in 7 admit they have a problem. Okay? And the other figure is that only 1 in 4 actually get treatment, as the filming of this video and this recent research. Now, the exciting part is 37% of those people who do seek treatment are coming from criminal justice. We still arrest 1.6 million people in America for substance abuse-related offenses, resulting in 7 million people incarcerated or on probation or parole as I'm filming this. So it is, to me, paramount that the legal practitioner at least examine treatment possibilities as he is defending somebody. And we like to occupy the treatment aspect so that the other attorney is looking into the pre-trial issues, pressing for every legal advantage, pre-trial omnibus motions, discovery requests, bill of particulars, challenging the burden of proof, production by the Commonwealth and whatnot. Those are all very important things. That's part of your due process Sixth Amendment right. And we don't want anybody to ignore that. And we certainly don't. If we are in a situation where we can't find anyone else and we're doing the legal and the treatment counsel, or you have chosen after disclosure to have us do both, I can tell you we will leave no stone unturned on those issues. Okay? And that's very important. But I can also tell you that we will leave no stone unturned in the treatment issue. Now again, I'm reminding everybody that I'm not a doctor. So anything you hear that touches on medical at all should be followed up by your own conversation with a doctor to check this out. In our treatment strategy, we find, as this filming of this video, some basic treatment philosophies. We have talk therapy, counseling, okay? We also have methadone. We also have Suboxone. We also have pain management. And we also have naltrexone, which can be administered by tablet, by implant, and by injection. Again, I'm no doctor, but those are the big universe of treatment philosophies out there. Now, we have also found that some of them also involve counseling. And counseling, we believe, is always a fundamental. It's the hallmark. Even when we don't have substance abuse clients, we're trying to encourage our clients to avail themselves of counseling to make better choices next time and not be in the place where somebody charged them with a crime, even if they were innocent. So the counseling component is very important to us. So what we try to do is we try to not recommend any type of person ever or any type of strategy ever, because we are not competent to do that. We are not in the treatment business. However, we do team up with people who are, and the first thing we like to do is get a neutral assessment. Again, what's an assessment? Well, you already know what an assessment is from our beginnings on this legal journey when us becoming your client. The same type of procedure is done by competent medical professionals wherein they interview and make salient findings and salient treatment recommendations. Now, we always emphasize neutral. Why neutral? I always like to explain this better by telling you a little story. If you and I left here right now, we decided to go buy a car, and we pulled into the Ford dealership, and we asked the gentleman, do you think I need a car? What do you think he's going to tell us? He's going to tell you, you need a car. And if we ask him, what kind of car do you think I need? What do you think he's going to tell you? Again, I'm not bashing Fords. It could be Chevy, it could be Etzel, you know, for those people who are as old as I am, you know. Anyway, all I'm saying is that I think it's important to get the assessment from somebody who is not going to be paid by providing the services, okay? So we are always strongly encouraging a neutral assessment, and those findings then will recommend what those treatment strategies are, and they'll be recommended by competent medical people. Now, the important thing is for this attorney, this treatment attorney, in my perfect world, to take that treatment plan, and when those recommendations are acted upon by the impaired defendant, that impaired defendant will work with a treatment provider who will work with us and share that information after proper ethical release, of course, so that we can take that plan and connect it to the law. Now again, let's go back to the treatment counsel. The treatment counsel is following up where the legal counsel has done his salient findings. And the treatment counsel has secured a neutral assessment with neutral treatment recommendations. And those neutral treatment recommendations has led you or somebody like you to a provider who is going to be independent. All of these providers are independent. They're supposed to follow their own independent judgment, even though hopefully they work together, but never sacrificing independent administration of their strategy and their God-given strengths. And they basically come out with a treatment plan. Now that plan is now sent back to the treatment attorney, us, and we enter that plan into a behavioral modification contract. Now, I'm very proud of that. And again, another story. I will ask you, even on our audio here, what do you think, and I'm asking you to give you a quick answer here, just instinctively, you're not going to be punished if you guess wrong, most people do. What do you think is the most popular song that's ever been sung in American history?
Stairway to Heaven.
All right. So by the way, the answer to that usually reveals the age of the person. Okay. But actually, the most sung song there has been is Happy Birthday. Okay. If you've noticed, if you've been in a restaurant and people have a bunch of waitresses around somebody challenging somebody from some silly song, and the person sitting in the middle is usually embarrassed, you'll notice they rarely are singing Happy Birthday. They're singing some variation of it. Because if you sing Happy Birthday, that restaurant would actually have to pay royalties. So it's the most often sung. What's my point? My point is that there are a lot of things you know that you just didn't know you knew. You know that now. So the behavioral modification contract, and as I speak, and you know this because you just went through it, has probably 46 pages and over 109 or 10 paragraphs of things you already knew. But they are good living experiences, things you already knew that you're willing to commit to do to make sure you're no longer impaired. Now that has 2 or 3 or 4 probably priceless numbers of benefits. The first benefit is that the treatment doctor who sent the treatment plan back to the treatment attorney can now have his treatment strategy engrafted into a binding legal contract. Because this this behavioral modification contract can also become an enforceable order of court in criminal court. It can become an order for the disciplinary board for a professional licensing company, an attorney license, a doctor license, a nurse license, a real estate agent license, an expulsion contract from a college or a high school or a school or a custody agreement, an employment contract, like a last chance employment contract. What it is it's the specific sub-behavioral methods that are going to be engrafted so that now there is a real life-changing plan in place which started from those basic salient findings and recommendations from the professionals in the major disciplines. And the major disciplines that this springs from is 1, behavioral modification, behavioral medicine. We're hoping that the person is always on an ongoing search and treatment strategy for the underlying root cause. Most people don't do alcohol or drugs. We call that self-medicating sometimes, without there being some kind of a problem underneath. So we always want to be looking for that. I always want you to think of these 3 as a 3-legged footstool. And I'll go back to why that's important. The second is the pharmacotherapy. Now what is pharmacotherapy? It's medication. Again, We're told by doctors there are tools now. We already know there is methadone. Methadone is a substitute for an addicting medication. We know there is Suboxone. We know there is naltrexone, which appears to be non-addicting and can, with tablet, implant, or injection, stop the reward system, according to my doctor friends who've informed me. Remember, I'm reminding you to get a doctor's opinion. Okay, and it keeps the body from responding to the reward from the drug and the alcohol, and thereby eliminates the problem. And the pharmacology is very important. Now, October 11th, 2011, October 12th, I think the FDA approved this medication, which basically can last 30 days for total abstinence. Just a caveat, though, to show you how they have to work together. You cannot, from what I understand from my doctor friends, you cannot take that medication if you're already on an addicting substance. You would have to be cleansed of that addicting substance, and that's why these pharmacotherapists have to work together. Okay, and then lastly is the law again. Why is the law important? Remember, the most motivated patients come from the law. Secondly, the law creates the behavioral modification contract, which is binding to change your lifestyle, and it can be presented into a courtroom. So now we have three of them: behavioral medicine, pharmacology, all of them working together, and the law. We have our three-legged footstool. If you saw a leg off a three-legged footstool, it's a worthless piece of furniture. If you only have one leg for a three-legged footstool, it's a worthless piece of furniture. You must have three, and they must work together. And again, that's where this treatment counsel comes. He gets them to work together, and they come together as a team. And nothing bad happens when these strategies work together, and only good things happen. So we always like to stay in the treatment counsel area. However, in those cases where you want us to, because we can't find anyone else, we will carefully navigate that difference and go into both of them at the same time. Now, going into the behavioral modification contract, I'm going to go over what I call the highlights of this contract. The first highlight is that it is a multiple party contract. Your dad, okay, some significant other, and if you don't have one, we have to hire one, is also part of the contract. I call them a 24/7 tattletale, if nothing else. That person is strong enough to call us if the person is violating the contract, because he cares enough and loves that person enough. Now, this is a hallmark question I've asked you, and I'm asking you again as we prepare for a very important week of activities in your case. Do you still agree with me that your health is more important than your criminal interests?
Yes.
Because if you don't, that's okay. That's a philosophical deal, and we can not work together in this private enterprise. And we know it is, right?
Yes.
Because you know the quality of life isn't worth living if you're out there still addicted, only to die an untimely death, kill someone else, or lead a miserable life. So, second question, which springs from that question: is it important enough to you that if you ever breach this contract, and we reasonably suspected that you are doing alcohol or drugs, that we are not only authorized but directed by you to me, that I'm ordered by you to me to call the authorities and pick you up to make sure that tomorrow you're going to be alive?
Yes.
That being in jail sometimes is actually better than being free. All right? Yes, still yes? Okay, great. And it's yes for all the things we talked about, right? Okay, good. And that's very, very important. That's not your standard attorney-client relationship. And I want to make sure that you understand that we read about that in your contract of representation. And that's important. It's important for two reasons. Number one, your health, but it's also important to show the court that you're serious. So, and this third party, this liaison, if you will, is a person who's going to rat you out, basically, if they reasonably suspect that you've drifted from us. Great. Okay, thank you. Now the contract goes on, and again, going into the major portions of the contract also says that whatever the treatment plan is from the team doctors, team counselors, team anybody, whatever that treatment plan is, you're agreeing to make it binding in the contract, correct?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you. And then the contract also has the concept of routine contact with us. At minimum, a person needs to be in touch with the doctors, therapists, and lawyers on at least a weekly basis. And you recognize that if you do not do that, then it might be required of you to contact more than weekly. And if that didn't work, more than daily.
Right.
And if that didn't work, even physically, to the point in time where you might even be required to go in-house rehabilitation. Whatever it is, it has an escalating scale so that we are always in reasonable contact and feel comfortable that you're matriculating and still being successfully treated and abstinent, or whatever the doctor says you need to be.
Right.
Okay, and of course the assessment process is something that you have to do, because none of these doctors, none of these lawyers, none of these counselors are going to have a clue how to service you without the assessment process, the salient findings and the salient recommendations. And of course, I would assume that when you go to a specific doctor, counselor, or whatever, that person will have their own assessment process. We encourage them to do that. All they're getting from us is a neutral assessment process to help them. And they are encouraged, and you're supposed to communicate this to them, to ignore our salient findings if their best interests say otherwise. We want you to have that right. And it's another issue here. It's possible sometimes you don't get along with people. It's possible that you won't get along with somebody you're referred to, including me. If that happens, then you're always encouraged to replace that professional or change this treatment plan. But you do it through the judicial system if it's in court, or through that disciplinary board, or through that employer. We will actually give you a free form document that you could fill out and walk into court so that you're always assured that you have a right to pick the professional or professionals that you like to do the job. All we're saying is once this contract is a contract, that you're going to modify it or terminate it with some degree of procedure so the other people who learn to respect it. And that means that it's possible, maybe probable, that each of these individual professionals, remember they're all independent, we always want them to be independent, they just agree to work together. Maybe a word on that. If you and I decided to go to Pittsburgh right now, we have 3 or 4 different ways we could get there. But you and I would agree to drive on 79 to get there. See what I'm saying? Well, I can go in whatever lane I want. I can go as fast as I want. I can meet you later, but we're going to take this. And that's all that we're talking about in this team professional advice. So we always want you to share with the professional that we want him or her to make his best call in light of a team, to the extent that they help. Never to the extent that it would impede what's best for you. Okay. Now, caveat to that, important. This might be a good place to add that. It's possible you may not like a particular professional. And again, this bears repeating if we said it again. You are encouraged to replace your professional, or all of them if you want, at any time. What we're encouraging you to do, though, however, is to do it through the procedures of the contract. We will even, as I said many times, provide documentation for you that you could fill out without any advice from any attorney, so that you could go back and you could modify, change, or even eliminate this contract if you think you'd rather go a different way. Okay? Very important. To the extent that you have a professional, you are not under any obligation to keep a particular professional. It's kind of like, don't quit and just quit and work on it later. Transitionalize so that your care is not interrupted. Okay? Now, also in our contract here is the idea that all of these professionals, for them to work together, need to share information. And many times, probably most times, their information is protected by privileges. You're certainly waiving, not only once, but ongoing while you're in the program, constant sharing of the privileged information so that the whole team can work together efficiently. And that's very important, that you're knowingly, intelligently waiving those privileges. And that will always be the rule between and among the team members until and only if you would present some kind of written instruction to the contrary, okay? Or call or something very quickly. Now, if that happens, we would have to adjust the plan somehow, but that's very important for you to understand that we need to share. And that sharing, by the way, for all these professionals needs to be many times online. So it's not just sharing, it's out there on the internet, and basically you're allowing us to share that information so that we can do it efficiently. And that efficient process could involve emails, it could involve forums and blogs with passwords, of course. It could involve video conferencing, it could involve video meetings, it could involve conference line. Of course, you will always be given a client number. And anytime you're on a conference line and have any doubt that there might be more than one person on there, we encourage you to use your number, not your name. Now, the other things about the electronic sharing of information, we like to brag on your success. And we brag on your success to the people who we're trying to convince that you're a changed person. And that would be the district attorney, adult probation, maybe even the policeman, or someone else. And again, if it's a civil case, it might be different. It might be the college dean or something. So we have what is called an E-chart. And you have been extremely successful in our program. I am so proud of who you are today compared to where you were. I would probably break buttons off of my vest if you didn't let me share your success. And that's one of the hallmarks of our program, and what we call an E-chart. When we hit the send button and share that information, Bill Doe showed up at my office at 2 o'clock and continues to do exceedingly well. He works hard, he's got a good job, his father's proud of him. It's so exciting, the progress he's got. When we hit that send button, that's going to go to everybody, including people on the other side, the district attorney and adult probation. So we want to share that news with them. And we want to, what we call auto-police by the same token. For you to get the benefit, the maximum benefit from the legal community for this is directly related to how tough and how transparent it is. So as we go through this behavioral modification contract, I'm reminding you that every time you think that it's interfering with some of your liberty interests, and every time you think that it's really pretty transparent, and man, they're sharing that with everybody, it's that degree of restriction and that degree of transparency which is allowing people on the other side to give you that other chance. Plus, it helps lead to your better treatment. And I'm reminding you that. So, when we send this information, we're sending it on what we call auto-reporting. And again, auto-reporting is okay, correct? Including all the people that you'll see, and you'll always get a copy on there too. Okay, great. So, I'm going to move through the behavioral modification contract and also remind you that we have an acceptance of responsibility section. And you've been very good that way. You've been working constantly since you've been treating, as far as I know.
Yes. Okay,
and my hat's off to you that way. Acceptance of responsibility recognizes that maybe I'm not guilty, but I certainly am accepting the responsibility of having made some bad choices or whatever. And acceptance of responsibility is something that we actually will tangibly express later on in the behavioral modification contract. Remember also too, the behavioral modification contract calls for social modification. My oldest story: if you look like a duck, quack like a duck, walk like a duck, and are seen in the company of ducks, it's a good chance that you are indeed a duck. Okay? So we're saying that if you have any ducks in your life, we want you to identify them in the behavioral modification contract so your liaison will know that if anybody has any substance issues, that they're identified who they are, so the liaison can politely steer you away. Okay? Secondly, we have in the behavioral modification contract a section where you identify who is in your life, even if they don't have state problems. Why is that important? For the same reason. Third, if somebody new comes into your life, and all at once your father or mother or liaison does not see them on the list, That's the red flag. Hey, who's that guy I saw you with last night? Oh, he's Bill Swanson. He's a neat guy I just met at Lowe's or something. Fine, let's put him on the contract here so your dad now knows and can check out to make sure he's not a contaminated person. Is that restrictive of your rights? Yes, but is it something that we agree you need? Correct? Like all these things. Okay, and that's what we call the behavioral modification, social modification concern there. We also have a self-reflection and or spiritual development section on our component. I am not wearing religion on my sleeve. I am an attorney at law. I recognize the validity of separation of church and state, and I'm an officer of the court, and will defend that to the death. We are, however, indicating that if a spiritual availability exists, would be foolish not to enlist that in our total rehabilitation effort. That's in here with all the secular background that I've just given you to use or ignore as you please. It goes back to my old days of teaching, and again, another story, but I think it makes a point. When I taught school, I taught phys ed, okay, and I coached football. I can't tell you how many times I would have kids in a classroom and I would be showing them on a blackboard what we were going to be doing on the practice field. So I was teaching the physical that was about to happen through the mental. And when we got on the field, John would knock down Bill and he'd pick Bill up and say, good play, good sportsmanship and whatnot. We were now physically teaching mental concepts through the physical. A person, I believe, is a physical, mental, spiritual, sociological, vocational person, and shame on the professional team that doesn't use every single one of those that he can to bring a full court press to this problem. And that's where that works. Okay, then we also have leadership, citizenship development section in here. Again, another story. I always think of myself as a jerk when I was younger. And if there's somebody watching this video who knows me, they'll say, wow, it's the first smart thing he said. A little levity here, but the most important thing you need to understand is that I believe, and I know, that I became a better person when I became a parent. I believe a person becomes a better person when they become a teacher, when they start helping other people. So we encourage successful people like you to help others. It's exciting to watch that because all at once you get it and you realize that you're here for more than just you. And also, it does another thing too. It for the first time in your life will give you a reputation, a good reputation. And you know, you can talk about the law, you can talk about injections, you can talk about counselors, but one of the best things I know, is that feeling good about yourself is a very strong incentive in defending your honorable name. And that can go a lot longer than any counselor injection or anything else I know. Okay, and in light of that too, that's why I like the pharmacology tools that are available too, because I believe that the pharmacology sometimes can separate the cravings and the reward system from the drugs from the person's mind so that they can get into their spirit and really be self-motivated. You know, I teach this class to lawyers, and many times at this point in time I'll have a skeptical group of faces in front of me and I know what they're thinking. Mr. Pepe is going to say something corny like, you're going to get high on life. That's exactly what I'm going to say. I can tell you right now that my daughter is a gifted athlete. She plays girls fast pitch softball, but she's also very much a tomboy. I was worried about her getting made fun of in school or whatnot. You know, kids can be kind of harsh, and I always hope she makes her own way. But one day I was watching her play softball, and she stepped out. She had eye black under her eyes, and the coach from the other team said, move in, she can't hit it that far. And of course, you know the rest of the story. She indeed hit it that far. She hit it not only that far, she hit it over top the concession stand and almost took a snow cone out of a lady's hand while she was ordering a hot dog. I can tell you, as I'm speaking right now, and I bet I've told that story 100 times, I have goosebumps on my body watching my daughter in my mind jog around those bases. To me, that is getting high on life. And I think most people get high on life. That's our job, to get you high on life, and part of this reputation is going to help you do that, and you're going to be able to grow as a person. Now there's a section of fill in the boxes here. I've also been frustrated with people and frustrated with professional people. Sometimes professional people, especially good ones, are very busy. And I'm not so sure they want to trudge through a 150 paragraph contract. So we created a middle section, which is behavioral medicine, pharmacological medicine, legal applications, and we have basically a small fill-in-the-box thing that any professional could do with a ballpoint pen. There are people who do in a second with a ballpoint pen what others take months to do, and I recognize that. So we allow the professional to make his own little adaptations in here. And we also encourage family members to add some special little quirks in there, that I want him home every night at 12, or I want him not hanging around with a particular person, or I want him to do this instead, or whatever. Those things can always be added by the rest of the family team, and that's in here for handwritten adaptations. Abstention from other drug usage. Again, the doctor will make this call, but if the doctor makes that call, we want a person to abstain from other competing drugs and whatever else issue. Part of what we're doing also as your treatment team or your treatment and legal attorney is validating your success. There's a lot of people who tell a lot of cute but insincere stories to judges and district attorneys. So one of the reasons with in addition to our auto reporting, we want to share your charts and your success. It's called validation. We're validating your success. Most lawyers that are worth their salt will say that any treatment program should be evidence-based. Evidence-based. That means that there is evidence, admissible evidence, that backs up these bold assertions. So that's part of the validation. And of course, truthfulness is all over in here, where you actually have to talk about swearing to the truth, such that you would expose yourself to literally criminal liability if you did not. We have a section for leaving the jurisdiction. We recognize that people travel, people move, people are transferred. That's very good. We make a transition and pick you a new treatment provider and send them the file. Relocating to another similar program. Lost employment. One of the things we require is to be employed. Again, unless a doctor says unemployed. Now, if the doctor writes that you're unemployable, obviously, then that would control. But we believe that a person should always be employed. We believe it helps in recovery. We also believe that some family member probably helped you finance some of this. And so again, the acceptance of responsibility, we're asking you to agree to, if somebody paid for this, you're going to pay them back. There's actually an enforceable judgment note in here that we have the person sign a legal binding obligation, and we require the person to stay employed so they can afford their own treatment. When you afford your own treatment, that requires you to stay employed. And there's a section in here we recognize also that in this economy, we never know when someone's going to be laid off or someone's going to lose their job through no fault of their own. There's actually a procedure in here to follow on getting re-employed. That is so many interviews, so many, it's called a work location section in here. Also, there's the idea that some people are motivated upwardly, and we encourage that. I'm telling you what I would tell my own son and daughter. It is strongly encouraged by your father to always seek a better job, but never to quit your job because you're looking for a better job. If you have a bad job, you keep working the bad job until you get the next job. I believe that I'm a lawyer today because I stayed in the job I did not like. It made me desperately hungrier every day to make sure I didn't quit. It's okay to look for a job where you're going to be president of the United States, but you always work at something until somebody calls you and wants you to be their running mate on the national ticket. Okay. There's a section in here for professional employment, and like I said, there's a minimum job search requirement while unemployed, and you're agreeing to do that. Monitored professional employment. Some people who take this are professionals, and we recognize that that would expose a significant threat or danger to their patients. So there are professional rules on them on what to do and how to remain a responsibly employed, impaired professional. And I'm going through and now we're moving along here. We also, in our behavioral modification contract, and as a way for auto reporting, are guaranteeing for evidence-based compliance that you will submit to any type of test at any time by any person. Now that could be urinalysis, that could be DNA, that could be hair, or any other testing. We're also interested in how other people can be helped, and it's very important for us to share your story or share the results. So we're asking you to participate in some forums to help us share the research with other people. Costs, of course, are borne by the customer. And of course, the costs for this, the medical costs, are always paid to the provider. We do not collect that in an attorney fee. If we're your treatment counsel, we'll have a task list for you and collect. Your attorney is going to work separately with you. Your counselor, your doctor, your psychologist, your psychiatrist will work separately also. All of those costs, of course, are paid by you, and if family members help, again, we're going to repay them. Evaluations and things like that are always borne by you. For example, if somebody needs to test you, those almost always are extra costs. If you fail out of the program, we don't say you're done forever, we'll put you back in, but many times you have to go through a lot of the administration again, so it can become very expensive to pay everybody all over again. You need to be prepared for that. And again, I'm reminding you again that all medical people and all medications are paid for or assumed by you or your family, insurance and things like that. The doctors will explain all of those issues to you. If you violate the agreement, okay, the first issue is, did I violate? Or does the attorney or Mr. Papa think I violated? Well, it's also possible that we think you violated, but maybe you didn't. If you didn't, you have a due process right, and there's rights in here for you to show that you did not violate. But if you did violate, then we have the right to sanction or remove. And again, we would immediately withdraw if we were in a criminal case, and that would probably send signals everywhere that that's what we would have to do. We can't stay with you if you're not going to follow our advice. And then we have verifications, expulsions, sanctions, an administrative hearing. That's all spelled out in the later pages of the contract. And again, I know I already touched on this, but as we close here, we're to the communication and other infrastructures. We can't do this and work with this many people without telecommunications, without email, electronic, forums, video conferencing. All those telecommunications, not only you have already said we're allowed to use those for your file, but you need to learn how to participate in them. If you're like me, you don't have a clue how to click or do any of that, we'll give you an orientation, but you have to kind of like stay up to speed on those issues. And that takes us all the way back through the contract. We're now to the end of the contract where we have the judgment note, which basically says I'm assuming legal responsibility to pay back the person who supplied these services. Now again, I want to close with this too, that we don't want to do your legal file and your treatment file, but we will. And we strongly encourage you to pick an attorney if you want us to do both, and in this case we're honored to do that under these terms and conditions. Now, is all of that acceptable to you?
Yes.
Okay, great. And do you understand how this is going to help you be a better person and address both issues at the same time with no guarantees? Okay, there's no guarantee that a court is going to cut you a break. Okay, and I want to make sure I say that again. Some people say, well, you said that I was going to get off and not do this or not do that. Nobody can guarantee that. We go back to this idea that we can guarantee very little. One thing I can guarantee, at some point in time, you'll be getting out of jail and you'll still have this problem if we don't address it. So I think it's a good idea, and we've agreed, right, to deal with that problem, the health problem now. Your best chance of having it help the legal situation is at this time. It means there's no guarantee that it in fact will. Okay? It is a pleasure to work with you, and I hope that you enjoy this journey. And at any time, if any of these things become no longer agreeable, we're requiring you to let us know, and we will always operate and assume otherwise unless we have a writing from you saying that, no, I changed my mind. Okay? Thank you. Thanks for working with us. It's a pleasure.
Hi, my name is Terry Crawford, and I am the Director of Communications here at Signature Hill. And I'm very easy to reach. You can reach me several different ways, one of which is by cell phone, and that is 760-957-5677. And you can also text me at that number, or you can also reach me by email, and my email is tcraw17@aol.com. And I am the Director of Communication here at Signature Hill. So if you need a free consultation, or if you need to get in touch with any of the attorneys as well as any of the professional consultants here at Signature Hill, I'm the person that you want to contact. And I am available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. If you need a free consultation for any of the legal services that are available here, or if you need to contact any of the professionals that are part of our team, I'm the person that you need to contact.